true care truth brings. I'll take one lift, your ride, best trip always. I know you'll be at my show, watching, waiting, commiserating,
Saying and so I will not go. Turn the lights off, carry me home.
late night, come home, work sucks, I know. She left me roses by the stairs. Surprises let me know she cares.
Saying and so I will not go. Turn the lights off, carry me home. Carry me home. Carry me home. Saying and so I will not go. Turn the lights out, carry me home. Keep your head still, I'll be your thrill. The night will go on, my little windmill. Na 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 na
Keep your head still, I'll be your thrill. The night will go on, the night will go on. My little windmill. I've been waiting for so long, now I finally found someone to stand by me. We saw the writing on the wall as we felt this magical fantasy. Now with passion in our eyes, there's no way we could disguise it secretly. So we take each other's hands, cause we seem to understand the urgency. Just remember, you're the one thing I can't get enough of. So I'll tell you something. This could be love, because
the time of my life. No, I never felt like this before. Yes, I swear it's the truth, and I owe it all to you. With my body and soul, I want you more than you'll ever know.
So just let it go, don't be afraid to lose control.
Yes, I know what's on your mind when you say,
Stay with me tonight. Just remember, you're the one thing.
I can't get enough of.
And I'll tell you one thing, I think this could be love, don't you? Because
I had the time of my life, and I never felt like this before. Yes, I swear it's the truth, and I owe it all to you, 'cause I had the time of my life.
Testing. Good morning. Good morning. Welcome. If we could have everyone make your way to your seats.
That's the way it was. Happened so naturally. I did not know it was love. The next thing I was you holding me close.
Hopefully everyone has had the opportunity to get a light breakfast out in the front, which was so graciously provided for us.
Through the stars, I hope this night would last forever. Ain't nobody loves me better, makes me happy, makes me feel this way. Ain't nobody loves me better than you.
As we have folks come in, please go ahead and find your seats. Thank you.
It's been so long, I knew just what I would do when I heard your song. You filled my heart with a kiss. You gave me
Welcome, everyone. And thank you so much for being here today. My name is Ashley Sadler, and I am a proud member of the PEBC Board Executive Committee. And I have the extraordinary honor of kicking off the first PEBC Colorado Workforce Forum.
ain't nobody loves me better.
We are all here this morning because we have something in common. We deeply care about education, and we realize that things are not business as usual in our schools. As Aurora Public Schools Director of Culturally and Linguistically Diverse Education, I know firsthand that we have a rich and dynamic community. Our teachers will readily share with you the passion that they have for working with children. And they will also tell you of the challenges and obstacles they face. Teachers are energized by the learning they see with their students, and they love knowing that they are making a difference in the lives of others. Today, we are going to hear from some fantastic speakers about what is going on in our schools, what it means for the Colorado economy, and how the business community can get involved. But before I introduce our first speaker, I'd like to take a moment to say thank you to this year's sponsors, who you can see on the screen. We could not do this without each and every one of you. Please give them a round of applause. The past 2 years have been challenging for our teachers and our students. But if you ask a teacher if they still have hope, they will answer with a resounding yes. Today, we are taking important steps to harness that hope into action to support our educators and our students. As you know, the teacher shortage is not a problem that's unique to Colorado. Districts across the country are grappling with how to recruit and retain quality teachers. That is why we are so honored today to have with us U.S. Deputy Secretary Cindy Martin of the United States Department of Education. Deputy Secretary Martin was confirmed by the U.S. Senate in 2021. Prior to joining the Department of Education, she served as superintendent of San Diego Unified School District. She spent 32 years as an educator, holding various roles and increasing responsibility as a teacher, a literacy specialist, vice principal, and principal. We are so grateful to have her here today to provide an overview of what the teacher shortage looks like nationally and some of the highlights that she has seen coming out of Colorado. Welcome, Deputy Secretary Martin.
Thank you so much for that very warm introduction, Ashley. I appreciate that. What a great room. I'm glad I was able to talk to many of you before we started. Hopefully you're getting your breakfast and coffee. And I didn't get to talk to everybody, but for those of you that I did talk to, what a great community, what a great gathering that you've brought together here. And it's been great being in Colorado this week and getting to meet students and teachers and superintendents and principals. I got to talk to some great students yesterday, and this is National Teacher Appreciation Week, so we got to appreciate our teachers. You can clap for that, yes. We're here in this great state of Colorado to lift up all of the work that you're doing, and this is an example right here in this room of why we're here. So let me say thank you. They didn't say I was going to do this, but let me say thank you to the Department of Education staff over here. Please stand up, Department of Ed. Chauncey, Vanessa, Larry, Jorge. And I don't know where Josh just went. There's Josh. Okay. See, they're hiding. A whole team, when we come to a state or we come to a location, it's to lift up the great work that's happening. And it takes a whole team to do that. And the people that we worked with to be in this room today were fabulous to work with and to partner with. And so thank you to the team from the department, also to the tech people here that got all this done and the streaming. Can we say thank you to all the tech support that makes a great event like this happen? Yesterday, as I went around and got to spend time with your governor, and great to work with Katie Anthis, we got to go to schools together yesterday. What a fabulous leader you have here. Katie, it's been great to get to know you, to work with you, and I think you have some of your board members here too. We're the board members, state board members. She's awesome. We got to talk about kids and instruction and great policy and great work, so thank you to having a great education commissioner here in Colorado. Makes all the difference at state level leadership, somebody who understands students and teaching. And you heard in my bio, I was a teacher for 17 years in the classroom, 1 in 3 of the appointees at the Department of Education, thanks to the Biden-Harris administration. 1 in 3 of us have classroom teaching experience. So we understand what works for students. We've done the work, we've been in the role. So thank you to everybody that's made all of this happen where we are. There's Lee Wheeler Berliner, Managing Director of Colorado Workforce Development Council. Is she here? He here? Lee, you see you were across from me and I didn't get to you yet. Lee, it's good to meet you. And Sue Sava, President, CEO of Public Education Business Coalition. I think I met you when I came in, yes? Sue. Rico Munn, your superintendent. I get to see some of the schools today of Aurora Public Schools. Brenda Craig, superintendent of Fremont School District. Where's Brenda? Hey, Brenda, good. Great. I don't know if I'm going to get all the superintendents because I think I met more of you than I have on the list, but I will tell you who I have. Tracy Dorland, superintendent of Jeffco Public Schools, and Chris Godrowski, superintendent of Adams 12 5-star schools. Met you when I came in. Bree Jones, superintendent of Lovetto School District, and of course you're going to hear later from Governor Polis. But who are the other superintendents that I didn't just read? Maybe superintendents? Yes. Anybody, any other superintendents I missed? Okay, well, oh, yes. To all of our superintendents, really. What I really want to say on behalf of the Biden-Harris administration and Secretary Cardona is to our superintendents, especially lots of leaders in this room that deserve lots of thanks. Being a very recent superintendent in San Diego Unified when the pandemic started, I'd been in San Diego Unified as superintendent for 8 years, and to our superintendents, thank you for your leadership, working with your boards and your communities and your teachers and everybody to give your service during these unprecedented and challenging times. We all want to bring those thanks. So from Secretary Cardona, as I said, and the Biden-Harris administration, we want to honor you truly honor you for the commitment that you've made. Some of you started in your roles before you knew a pandemic was going to be part of how you were going to lead, but you're here because you're dedicated to students and to your communities and to making sure that you're building equitable learning experiences for all students and giving staff the support that they need so students can get what they need. At the department, we define equity as each and every student gets what they need, when they need it, in the way that they need it. And during the pandemic, it was where they need it. And so you're figuring that out, and it's an honor for me to be able to be here and celebrate what we can accomplish together when we know our students by name, by strength, and by need, and when we put students and their well-being at the center of our work. So given the purpose of today's session, I want to reflect briefly on the impact, the great impact that we're seeing about the national shortage of essential educators and other student support personnel that we know we need, including right here in Colorado. So schools are doing what they can to provide the safe in-person learning to address social and emotional mental health and academic impacts of COVID-19. And we've heard directly from chief state schools officers and superintendents and building leaders across the country. We get out a lot from the department. We hold national convenings. We go to states and districts like this, and we hear about the shortages and the impacts of the shortages on students. There were pre-existing shortages in critical areas in special education, in bilingual education, science, technology, engineering and math, career technical education. These shortages are well known and pre-existing to the pandemic, and it's just created a greater resource and equity gap for the students that we need to most serve. And so this is especially true across the country, but in the under-resourced areas where we need to make a difference, especially for students of color. It's our nations and our classrooms that are growing increasingly diverse, and we need a teaching workforce that's as diverse as our students. We know that's what works. It's not just students of color who benefit from diverse educators. All students benefit when you have a diverse teaching workforce. We know that regardless of students' race, teachers of color help them feel cared for and academically challenged. That's what happens when you have a diverse teaching workforce. And then all of the students are better prepared to enter the workforce that we know we need to have students ready to enter. The workforce that is culturally and generationally and geographically diverse, we have to prepare kids to enter that type of workforce. We also know that a lot of aspiring educators can struggle to afford high quality comprehensive pathways into the profession that will fully prepare them for success. So Secretary Cardona has issued a call to action on this very topic, a call to action for states, for districts, for institutes of higher education leaders. We want to use federal resources to work together to address this nationwide teacher shortage and to help with the student recovery. So to increase the number of teacher candidates prepared to enter the profession in fall and beyond, here's what the Secretary is calling on states to do. First of all, we want states to commit to establishing teaching as a registered apprenticeship. We're asking to invest in evidence-based teacher residency programs. You can do things like launching and expanding loan forgiveness or service scholarship programs and increase teacher compensation. And for districts to commit to increasing the partnerships between education preparation programs at the post-secondary institutions, and for districts to support teacher residencies. And that will help increase the availability of qualified teacher residents to support the educators and the students and the staff. So that's how we not only reimagine education in this call to action for our students, but it's also for our teachers. This is what's next. This is the path. And it helps us bring more people into the teaching profession and into the field. What we're doing is we do what teachers do best. To put this call to action to practice, you have to do just what you're doing in this room. You have to collaborate and you have to innovate. Here in Colorado, school districts are already, that's why we're here, you're already developing innovative ways to improve the recruitment and the retention of high quality teachers. In Aurora Public Schools, for example, and the PEBC, you're partnering in a pay for success model that provides Aurora Public Schools more highly qualified teachers from PEBC's teacher residency program doing exactly what we're looking for. You're bringing in people who commit to staying in the district, and the model pays for retention outcomes rather than inputs. Across the country, what we're seeing is a need for additional mental health supports, not just for students, but for our educators as well and whole staffs. And PEBC has been passionate advocates for this. You're working on advocating for additional mental health supports for teachers. So as a result of that, Colorado passed Senate Bill 21-185 that implemented recommendations that teachers requested. That's what real collaboration looks like. It includes standing up a mental health hotline for teachers at a medical center, and the Colorado Education Association provided additional funding outside of that bill that's ensuring mental health supports were able to move forward. Such critical work you're doing. It's those success stories that show the importance of partnerships. What happens when you don't do something to people or for people, but you do it with them? This is what happens. These are the outcomes that you see. And it's critical that business and community partners continue to partner with education to understand the needs. That's why listening today is so important. You're helping to address the teacher shortages because the future of the workforce does depend on the educational journey for each and every student that's in our care. It's on all of us to give our students a fighting chance at a quality education that will lead to a fulfilled life. And I know that is your goal. You all are representing the hope that leadership and service has been able to carry us through the past 2 years, and it's going to propel us into the future. The future is bright with smart leaders doing smart, wise actions like you. I can see it, and it's clear to me as a lifelong teacher that you all in this room in this state, you understood the assignment. You get what we're trying to do. You understand how to direct these resources in ways that will make positive impacts. As Secretary Cardona reminds us, to truly build an America worthy of our children, we have to take not just action, but bold action to help our students heal, learn, grow, and recover from the impacts of the pandemic, and to reimagine the education in a way that serves the needs of each and every student. Each and every is something we've talked about for a long time. This is the time to do it. The students are waiting, and we can do that. This is a once in a generation opportunity to transform American education and to strengthen our democracy and at the same time our economy. We can do it at the same time together for everyone. And the only way to do it is together. So thanks for letting us be a small part of this big work here in Colorado. Appreciate you. We're not going to drop the mic. We're going to pass the mic.
Thank you. Thank you. Such amazing and profound words. One of the things that Secretary Martin said is we need to know students by name, by strength, and by need. That's something that I'm carrying away. Hopefully each and every one of you can carry something away, as well as the strategies that she presented. So thank you, Deputy Secretary Martin. Again, it is an honor to have you here today. We are so incredibly fortunate to have strong support for education, not just nationally, but also here in Colorado. So Governor Polis has been a valuable advocate for early childhood education and K-12 leaders, or teachers, and as a school board member, a congressman, and now as our governor. So now I'd like to turn your attention to the screen for a few words from Governor Polis. Thank you so much to Governor Polis for sharing his perspective. We are grateful to our governor and also grateful to have strong leadership at the helm of the Colorado Department of Education. The Colorado Commissioner of Education, Dr. Katie Anthus, is here with us today and has agreed to share a few words. So welcome, Commissioner Anthus.
All right, good morning, everyone. Hope you got a little more coffee than I did. The gloomy weather, which is good for us because we need the moisture, still is making me a little tired. But I would love all teachers present to please stand up and just let's give a round of applause. Thank you so much. I echo what our governor said. We appreciate you so much, and really, there's not enough we can say to you. There's not enough we can do for you to appreciate you, but we do have some places and discounts on the CDE website of where you can get some discounts this week. So I know that's a little, not quite enough, but I also just want to say thank you to our principals and our superintendents, and all leaders at the district level. It has been a roller coaster of a couple years to lead, and it is incredibly hard work. I am proud to be in this state with you. I am so proud to work alongside you during this tumultuous time. So shout out to all the principals, superintendents, and district leaders out there as well. Thank you. Please give them a round of applause. I also do want to thank two state board members that are here with us, Angelica Schroeder, Lisa Escarzaga. We do sometimes forget that all of our board members are volunteers. The state board members are volunteers too. And if you see the binders we give them each month, you would say, wow, they have a lot of work to do. So really huge appreciation to you and the rest of the board as well. But today is about workforce. And as we have mentioned, I really believe, and I'm sure you all do too, that teaching is the most important job in our entire world. It is the job that creates the next set of leaders. It is the job that creates all other careers. It is the most important job in the world. Sometimes maybe we don't, show that as well as we should. I wish we could pay all of our teachers like we pay NBA stars or football stars, but I believe that in my heart of hearts, which means that today and talking about workforce is the most important thing to do, right? We have got to make sure our workforce is strong for the next generation, strong for this generation, and you all are in this room doing that, and PEBC has been a partner in doing that for so long. So I really can't thank PEBC and all of you in this room enough. I also do just want to, we're so honored to have the Deputy Secretary with us today and her team with us. We visited all day yesterday, and really I just had the opportunity to share a little bit about what Colorado has been doing with the federal funds. And we have been spending a lot of our federal funds. This is, I think, the most popular fact sheet that we have at CDE, and shout out to my team, Colleen O'Neill and Mary Bivens, who are here. But this fact sheet, and it's on our website, we'll make sure you get it, are all of the grant programs that we are providing to make sure our workforce is strong. It includes mentorship programs. It includes alternative pathways. It includes ensuring that your, all of your staff can have a pathway to teaching. It includes so many things that we can do now in this moment where we have some extra funds to really launch the teaching career into a new place. And so please take a look at that. I want to extend my gratitude to the U.S. Department of Education, Secretary Cardona and Deputy Secretary Martin for allowing Colorado to do this. It is so important. And And with that, I do get the honor of introducing Sue Sava. And so I told Sue today, I was like, I don't have a bio for you or anything. You're just going to let me wing it? And she's like, I guess so. So here we go. But Sue and I have been partners and friends for a very long time. I am so thrilled that she is at the helm of the PEBC. This partnership with CDE has been critically important to us. We have done so much important work together with the residency program. Like the assignment that Deputy Secretary gave us, I feel like Colorado got either an A or a B on it. The registered apprenticeship, this is PEBC, and they do evidence-based not registered apprenticeship, they do evidence-based residency programs. We are working with Lee Wheeler Berlin and Colleen O'Neill and our team to create a registered apprenticeship for teachers, so we're on that path. And we do have partnerships with our universities. Now, we can get better at all of those things, which is why I'm giving us a B. And we don't have the apprenticeship yet, so I can't give us an A, but we're on the path to that. So, and Sue Sava and PEBC is our partner in all of those things. And I just want to say that she is, some alliteration for this morning, she's partner, she's passionate, and she's the most positive person I know. And we need that absolutely in this moment. And so a wonderful leader, and I'm honored to introduce her. So Sue Sava, come on up.
How's a little alliteration to start our day, folks? Teachers in the room? Well, I first want to start by expressing profound thanks to the leadership of Commissioner Anthus. So everybody, please give it up for Katie Anthus. And then I would like for all teachers, principals, and superintendents in the room to stand for a rousing round of applause. Everybody up, teachers, principals, assistant principals, instructional coaches, superintendents. As a fourth-generation educator myself, married to a teacher who teaches with those two over there, my mother would say, you do God's work, and I think it's true. What I've seen over the past couple years in the classrooms has been unprecedented. As a matter of fact, it compelled us at PEBC to start a policy department so that we could change the conditions teachers are working on the ground. We've heard teachers loud and clear. It is now upon us, it's a moral imperative, to share what they're begging you to pay attention to with the business community. Because what we know is that education is the mother of all workforce. No careers exist without the teachers who come first. Those teachers deserve nurturing, sustenance, development, care, and they trust themselves to us. It is imperative that we pay attention to this critical juncture that we're in for the field of education. We know that this is the first generation of teachers who tell their children not to become educators. I will admit, being married to a second grade teacher who has 3 jobs and paying college tuition, it is hard to think about one of my children coming into this field and being able to sustain themselves as a whole person. I admit that. And I say the education profession is worth the fight. And all of you who just stood up are worth the fight. And that is what PEBC is here to do. I can't express the gratitude I have for the teachers who are weathering this storm. Let's be real, people. Weathering the storm in mental, physical health. We had 2 superintendents who couldn't make it today for critical issues going on in their districts. We need to appreciate that without a highly trained teacher workforce, Colorado will continue to import talent from other states. I am imploring the business leaders in this room and on the Kaiser Permanente live stream happening, where we have a whole nother sector listening in, I am imploring you to pay attention, because you will continue to import a workforce that lacks the skill to do your jobs unless you support the mother of all workforce, which is education. I implore you to pay attention to this moment. All right, now on to the PBC team, which is the happy news. PBC team, please stand up. These fearless and brave educators. Give them a round of applause. Yay! Amazing talent, and we are so proud of our ability to develop and train exceptional teachers, and again, to echo Deputy Secretary Martin, who are worthy of each and every student, which actually is our mission. So thank you, Deputy Secretary. From the PBC teacher residency, and stand up if you're a graduate of the residency. I'm one, Alex, this year residency, Jessamine 2004, Lisa Scott, Rochelle. Brianna, Dr. Mestis finished her dissertation yesterday. We are proud to offer professional learning workshops, embedded coaching in 23 states. So how many of you knew that PBC works in 23 states? Right? So we have that teacher, yeah, we got two. We have that teacher humility issue around here where people say, oh, I thought you were just in the Metro Denver area. We're like, no, actually, we have hubs in New York and Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, and Kalispell, and we work in the Panhandle. So I couldn't be prouder of this team. As I said, we also shape policies to help working conditions for teachers. And as Deputy Secretary Martin noted, we don't do unto teachers. We get in a room with them like today, we ask them what they need, and then we make it happen. So we did work on a bill last year in conjunction with Keystone Policy Center, as you heard Governor Polis mention. Teachers asked for 16 concrete recommendations. We put them in a bill, Senate Bill 21-185. We asked the Joint Budget Committee for $3 million a year. And the Joint Budget Committee, when does this happen in Colorado, people, came back and said, how's $13.3 million a year? And we said, amen, okay, we'll take it. I mean, really, we're at a pivotal moment in education, and we're grateful to have a governor who pays attention to these things. The other reason why business needs to pay attention is because when our students leave our system, they're transitioning to yours. Whether and then come to you, or whether they go into a career, they're coming to you. Right? So we need to partner on this endeavor, and I don't need to beat on that drum, except for we are going to come up with some concrete strategies for you to help today. So let's see. Friends, I'm so happy to introduce Lee Wheeler-Berliner, who is a PBC board member graduate and the managing director of Colorado Workforce Development Council. Bring it, Lee. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sue. Good morning, everybody. It is great to be with you all today. The Colorado Workforce Development Council is a governor-appointed, business-led, public-private strategies. We're going to do a mic switch, see if that works out a little bit better. And our vision is that every Colorado employer has access to a skilled workforce, and that every Coloradan has the opportunity for meaningful employment, which leads to individual and statewide economic prosperity. We know that the education industry is absolutely critical to that vision, and the overall health of the industry is reliant upon teachers. Therefore, in the 2021 Colorado Talent Pipeline Report, we called out education as one of the critical industries in our state, and it continues to be a focus of statewide efforts for educator recruitment, both through post-secondary degree programs and through alternative teacher prep programs. Now, there have already been and there will be a number of an amazing education professionals sharing this stage today. That's not me. I don't fit that definition. Despite that, even though I'm the non-educator in the room, I'm going to throw the pop quiz at you today. So, no iPads, calculators, Chromebooks allowed. Please, does 3,082 equal 6,910? Anybody? No? Okay, great. I will cold call, Commissioner. One more, true or false this time. True or false, 40 is twice as much as 20? True, okay, good. That was the easy quiz. The harder quiz that we all get to wrestle with today, and that we get to continue to tackle as we leave this room, is why are those numbers different? And what can we do to change that? Of course, to know that answer, you have to know what those numbers actually are. 6,910. You'll hear this mentioned again later on. That's the number of Colorado teaching positions that needed to be filled in the 2020-21 school year. 3,082 was the number of graduates in 2020 from teaching programs at our Colorado post-secondary institutions. The supply does not equal the demand. 40%, when we analyze job descriptions in the education industry here in the state, 40% of those job descriptions are asking for teaching skills. And yet less than 20% of the job seeker profiles in our state stated that they have those skills. So again, supply is not equaling demand. As you heard our governor state, a strong education system means a strong economy, and our state's economy cannot be strong without a thriving education sector. And if we want that economy to continue to grow, business leaders in the room, you want that business to continue to grow, we have to focus on our educator workforce and deploy all means available to create equilibrium between that supply and demand. So we'll dig in a little bit on a few data points. Evan, if you can go to the first slide here. When we think about the education industry writ large, it has a powerful economic impact on our state with positions in every single county. That job openings in the education sector are anticipated to grow 10% within this decade. So if you know someone who's thinking, should I go for this career? Is that job going to go away? Is it still going to be there by the time I finish my training? Education and teaching is a great option to promote people. And we also have some average salary numbers here. $60,000 per year is an average salary for those with a 4-year degree. Now, one of the things that jumps out, some people think that's higher than what the reality may be. And also the second number, $63,000, is the average salary with a master's degree. You can see that there's very little financial incentive to actually go for that advanced education, which is so critical in the practice in and of itself. If you can go on to the next slide. As we think about the state of our education workforce in Colorado, it is helpful to know how we rank nationally. So as you can see here, in the education sector, 261,000 jobs in that sector. That's above the national average for other states in terms of how many people are employed in education. There's been some drop-off nationally, a 3.3% decline in the last 4 years. Colorado's decline has been less. So we're not decreasing as much as other states. Then when we look at the median earnings, these median numbers, I know it's a little tricky to see, $23.96 an hour is the median earnings, less than the national average of $25.51, $49.8 thousand a year, less than the national median of $53.1. Those median numbers, they're kind of tricky when you look at it. And we'll talk more about that in a moment. Ultimately, we know there's a lot more job openings than the people that are being prepared in our state. We need to look at what's being done to grow and retain talent. We have career pathways in education that are built and promoted throughout the state. We have invested in Teach Colorado. We utilize cutting-edge PR and direct relationships to encourage people to pursue this career. And we have innovative leaders who are willing to rethink and recreate the standard norms of practice in ways that increase teacher retention and the longevity of careers. One of the disciplines that I get to work in and the key strategies that we promote statewide for all industries is that of work-based learning. And while the longstanding practice of student teaching for a semester definitely is a work-based learning model, I believe that our system has for far too long allowed that to be the only training period. And after one semester and 90 days of observed and then also supervised teaching, we take that 22 or 23-year-old, drop them in a classroom where, from my experience volunteering for a 3rd grade field trip recently, I would say that 22-year-old is outgunned, outmanned, outnumbered, and outplanned to manage that environment. We know that models exist that can reverse this paradigm. Through apprenticeships and residencies, new teachers are developed and supported over time in a manner that enhances their own confidence and likely employment of their job. These concepts can be applied to education. We have business leaders in this room who know how to be co-producers of talent, who can help you, can work with you, and ensure that you're getting the support you need. Last slide I want to highlight gets back to this earnings curve. In the median earnings, that number is lower because the average is skewed by the top end. You look at the top end of the percentile, that's where wages start to really spike in that 75th and higher percentile. However, we have to support people to get to that median point. We need to reframe what we're doing, lean into support, think about how business and education can come together to be co-producers of talent, how you as leaders can also put your employer hat on to drive job quality and to enhance the experience for everybody working for you. I'm excited for the discussion to continue today, and thank you again.
Thank you, Lee, for that outstanding overview. So far this morning, we have heard about how the teacher shortage has affected our students nationally and across Colorado. Now we are going to switch gears to talk about what's happening on the ground in our schools. So I would like for you to humor me a little bit with some participation. Please raise your hand if you can relate to the following. How many of you have children in schools? Okay, and if you can't, just take a look around. Keep your hands up. This is also some arm exercises. Okay, thank you. How many of you have had to miss a day of work this year because your student's classroom or school was closed unexpectedly? I've got one person in the back who's just continually holding her hand. I'm going to account for all of these. Okay. And how many of you know a teacher who is not returning next year? That's profound. Take a look around the room to see. Thank you. As you can see, the shortage has already touched many of our lives. The costs of losing teachers are very real, both in terms of lost opportunities for our children and in terms of dollars. Research shows that urban school districts can, on average, spend more than $20,000 on each new hire, which includes school and district expenses related to separation, recruitment, hiring, and training. I'd like to introduce you to two outstanding superintendents who can tell us more about the challenges being faced in the urban and rural school districts. So please welcome the current Colorado Superintendent of the Year, Brenda Craig from Fremont, and former Colorado Superintendent of the Year and my superintendent, Superintendent Rico Munn from Aurora Public Schools.
Ashley, we're going to bring everybody up.
Okay, we're going to bring everyone up. All right, so if we can also have Dr. Kim LeBlanc Esparza and Chris Kadowski. Dr. Kim Esparza is the Deputy Superintendent of Jeffco Public Schools, and Chris Kadowski is the Superintendent of Adams 12 5-star schools. So we're going to start with an overview of the challenge, and this is open to anyone who would like to speak. Currently, what are the biggest challenges that you all are facing in terms of staffing, and what are some of the factors that are driving those challenges?
I'd love to start. Okay. We're mics, that's right. So a couple points that I would like to make is in rural Colorado, applicants, as we heard today, we have a real shortage of applicants. That is compounded by a very mobile workforce right now. Teachers have an opportunity to drive another 5-10 miles away to another community, maybe 20 miles away. They can pay for their gas. And they're hopping jobs. They're very mobile right now, just for another $3,000, $5,000 a year. So holding on to long-standing teachers is a challenge for us. But I have to address the pay difference. We just saw a figure up here that was interesting to me at an average teacher salary of $60,000 a year. I don't have an employee teaching in my classrooms that makes that salary. In fact, when you look at the pay disparity in Colorado, the lower 9% of districts is a very compact and tight field. 108 out of 178 districts are rural school districts. We're 20% lower than that. There's not a teacher that makes that average salary. And in fact, in our company is Campo, a district that is the lowest paid teachers in the nation. So this is a factor that we have to pay attention to. We're not able to make a competitive wage. In fact, even in the metro area with the $60,000 average, there's not a single school district in the state of Colorado that pays their starting teachers at a cost of living wage. So it's a factor for us.
Yeah, and I would say that in particular, one of the opportunities of this forum is to speak to the business community. Education sector, it's great to have you here, but I'm not talking to you. Really trying to talk to the business community about what we're talking about. And thematically, what I would say are we are at a particular moment in time All right, there was a reason that this is usually the superintendent's forum, but we shifted this to be an education workforce forum because that is the crisis moment that we're in. And the theme that I would articulate is threefold. The issues we face are about overregulation, they're about disruption, and they're about resource depletion. And the business community, if you are not working to support and address those issues, then you are working against your interests and the interests of Colorado. When I talk about overregulation, look, from the federal, state, local, and union level, there are layers of regulation effectively. And what everybody in the business community knows is the more regulation you have, the fewer people you have in that workforce because it constricts the number of people who can be engaged in that. So just understand and recognize that. Now, depending on your political persuasion, you have a different view of each different level of regulation. But if you want to be an honest broker, you have to recognize the layers together create an issue. So you need to be thinking about each of those, and each of your pet causes creates another one of those issues and another one of those layers. When I talk about disruption, there's obviously the pandemic and all of the issues that that's created, but also the rampant and ugly partisanship around some of the issues that we deal with day to day in K-12 creates a massive disruption. If business, you are not actively working to resolve some of that, to support some of that, then you are part of the problem. And then the resource depletion, we talk all about the issues as it relates to K-12, but remember, we are facing in K-12 some of the same issues that you are facing in the business sector, from supply line to inflation, to all of those issues are impacting us. And while the federal ESSER dollars are a good stopgap and they're going to help us in the short term do some things, that's what they are, a stopgap. They're a moment for us to breathe and find and create new opportunities. So we are here asking for your support and help in responding to those new opportunities.
Well, this was fun. I didn't know exactly what Brenda and Rico would say. I'll complement what they're saying with a few different points to the conversation. One is in terms of workforce, we have big challenges as it relates to hiring support staff. A year. How's this going? Oh, hopefully it'll be better. So a year ago at this time, if you're an entry-level professional, somebody working on our I'm done with this. Thank you much. So a year ago, for our entry-level support staff positions, we were paying $12.50 an hour roughly. We moved that to $15 an hour in August because we were struggling. I drive by each day seeing McDonald's, Wendy's, Target, Chick-fil-A paying $16 an hour. So we moved to 15, feeling like that was a big stride forward. We just completed negotiations and we moved starting salaries up to $16.50 an hour. And as I sit here today, we have over 100 support staff positions that are unfilled. Everything from paraprofessionals, bus drivers, before and after school care positions, and the rest. So know that workforce challenges are pervasive not only with teachers but with our support staff. And when you have vacancies in those positions, it just adds more to the stress and to the plate of teachers who are trying to move forward and support kids each and every day. The other point I just wanted to raise in the conversation is my greatest concern right now in Adams 12 isn't so much about hard to fill positions that I can't find anyone for the entire year to take on. We have challenges around special education. Career and tech ed is often challenging. It's tough to say, come work for us on our salary schedule as a diesel mechanic instructor when you can make $40,000 more a year working in the private sector. So we do have some hard to fill positions. But our biggest challenge right now is the day-to-day, how do you fill all your positions and have consistent instruction going on in school? My belief is we've hit the tipping point and we've started to push people over the edge as educators. Over the last 12 years, every year there's discussions about workload and expectations, and there's more and more that we expect either at the federal level, the state level, the local level, from parents pushing on us. And then you add to it what this year has been with just really intense student behaviors and challenges. We had a board meeting in early October with our principals, and we had board members crying throughout most of the board meeting because our elementary principals were saying that they'd had to evacuate their kindergarten classrooms routinely at least once a week from kids who were losing it and throwing chairs and books and things around the classroom because they were highly dysregulated. Middle school principals are saying we've got 2 grades of 6th graders this year who really act like 5th graders. So we have lots of challenges in that space. And at high school, one of our high school principals said we've already had more fist fights in the first 5 weeks of the school year than we have in an entire year. And so we have all these huge behavioral things going on. We've got the state asking for us to do 45 hours of training for educators in grades K-3 around literacy. There's more and more things that we ask all the time. And I think what's happening is that people are hitting the wall, and they're just having to take some time to catch their breath, to de-stress, and to give themselves a mental health day much more often than what I saw earlier in my career. That's why we have such huge unfilled vacancies every day in substitute teaching. And like Rico's message and like Brenda's, money is part of the solution that can make that better. Happy to talk about that more as we go.
Do you want me to use this? Well, I could echo what all of my colleagues have said. I have the unique experience of having spent the last 2 years as a superintendent in Pagosa Springs, which is a resort community that is sort of a landlocked island, and like Brenda, has its rural challenges. We can count on a couple of fingers how many applicants we got for each job position. And thank goodness for people like PEBC who would come in and help us work on alternative licensure and helping people who are changing careers and coming into education so that we could have people to fill those vacancy positions. On the other end of it, now being back home in the Denver metro area, what we're seeing, yes, we have applicants, but we also have a competitive market, and certainly we all compete for those same candidates of teachers coming out of university, and as was pointed out earlier, there's not enough candidates for the number of vacancies that we have. Like Chris, we're seeing empty positions all year long. I know that I think if I had a CDL license, I would have probably been driving a bus at some point in time this year because we do have those empty spots. We do have our maintenance crews. We do have our custodians that are driving buses for our schools every day to get kids to school. It's a very real challenge that we have in terms of workforce. Yes, it's teaching, but yes, it's everyone else as well.
Thank you. Okay, I have a loud teacher voice, so if this goes out, then y'all know what's going to happen, right? So we heard about the competitive market. We heard about alternative licensure. And we also know that this is not just about licensed teachers, but also about our classified staff. So what do you think is needed in order to retain and attract talent in your district? And that would be from our workforce as well, from the folks that are in the room.
So I think money matters, and it matters a lot. And I've been sitting in the seat for 13 years. I've sat on the stage for most of those years. I've seen 4 failed statewide ballot measures beyond the ballot asking for more funds for public education. And I've seen as a result of that, local districts go out when they can and get supplemental overrides passed so that they have more that they can use to compensate staff and to hire more staff to fill needs. And the gap between haves and have-nots has grown tremendously. Adams 12 is kind of the in-between child between Boulder Valley to our west and 27J to our east. And there's probably a 6-mile span between border to border, but there's a $3,000 per kid difference between what 27J gets and Boulder Valley gets through supplemental funding. And it creates a lot of disadvantages in terms of how you can compete for staff and what you can do in terms of the quantity of staff that you can hire. My hope is that the business community will go beyond what I've seen in the past, which is I believe Enrico's district, when he reaches out to his business community and chamber, they say, we support you, we're on board, we'll endorse your mill levy override or your bond issue. And that will happen for me. It happens in communities throughout the metro region. But what we failed to do is have business come behind something at the state level that says even with some of these local efforts, we have too little funding to pay teachers a competitive wage, support staff a competitive wage, and to have workload be allocated across more people so that it's not such an overwhelming, exhausting job that it's become. I really feel like our opportunity moving forward is, as we look to this year's ballot in November, my hope is for the first time our business community comes together and lends its voice to the conversation. If there's things we need to do to get you to that spot, business community, to say, yes, we're behind you, at the state level and not just the local level. I'd want to have that conversation. But we have urgent need to bring more resources in to increase compensation for staff and to have more staff so that you're not teaching 150 kids and trying to differentiate for all their needs and grading papers till 10 o'clock at night. Money's going to make a difference in terms of recruiting people and retaining them.
Thank you. Anyone else would like to address that question?
Yeah, and I certainly agree 100% with everything Chris is going to say, so I don't want to reiterate that. But this goes back to my point around overregulation. We are at a particular crisis moment, and I need to keep reiterating that. And in that moment, at every level, we need to be thinking about how do we get creative and how do we create opportunity. So again, federal, state, local board, union. At each of those levels, you need to think about how do we do this differently. If at the union level, and my AEA is clear where I stand, we need to think differently. We need to approach this differently. If we stay stuck in our current structures, we can't get it done. At the state level, Dr. Anthus is very clear about where I stand around accountability, right? If we keep doing it the same way, we will have a wreck. It will not work. It does not work, and we need to think about that very differently. And so at each of those levels, we have to think differently about the work. If we are unwilling to engage in those conversations, unwilling to have that, then we have the same stressors across the system, and those vacancies won't get filled because people are experiencing the same level of stress without any way of addressing that or responding to that, creating different ways of doing the workflow, creating different structures within our system.
Thank you. Brenda or Kim?
Couple points I'd like to make is that I think you have to kind of look at that crystal ball on what education is going to look like if we don't address some of the points that have been made this morning. Is we all went through the pandemic. We all flipped our organizations very quickly to deal with remote. In some instances, that happened very well. In other instances, not so much. We all have stories. Every one of you can attest to what happened in your home with your children during that remote. You had a great experience or you didn't. We, you know, we did our best. But we are headed to a permanent structure of remoting and zooming in teachers, especially for content specific, if we can't fill these positions and address the workforce shortage. And so the crystal ball down the road is, do we want this structure forever, or do we look at some of the, you know, the ballot initiatives and the regulation and the things that are forcing people out of our workforce and really take this opportunity to look at how we do things differently. The other thing that I can say and that I am grateful for are the apprenticeships and looking at how we license people. In my district, this year we've been very, very aggressive with looking at how do we fill our positions from within, how do we go into our community, how do we recruit those moms that want a schedule maybe that matches their child, how close are they to a teaching license, do we have paras in our buildings that we could train up, get them into a pipeline, so every pathway, even from our seniors and juniors in high school, every pathway leads to a teaching licensure. And we're being very aggressive because in rural Colorado, we feel like we're going to solve this within our own communities. Now, that's going to cause a vacancy at another level, but we've got to get licensed teachers into those classrooms.
I'd make one other point. As you see at the bottom of the screen there, both Brenda and Rico have alluded to the substitute shortage that exists within our schools on a very real, everyday basis. And one of the ways that we've started to reach out to our economic coalition, we started to reach out to our chambers and say, if there's a way that our business partners can come alongside us, give employees an opportunity to take a day, take 2 days within their year and volunteer, come in and substitute in our schools. Because every day that we don't have a substitute in a classroom, kids are losing learning time. And those are very real shortages that we have, and that's a way that our business partners can certainly step up and help us.
Thank you, Kim. And that kind of leads to another question that I want to touch on briefly before we move into another section, which is, what are you all doing right now because of the teacher shortage? What are some of the strategies that you all have in place? I know what we do in Aurora Public Schools. If Rico, you'd like to talk about that first. Love to put them on the spot. But just thinking about what are some things that are happening in your districts as a result of the shortage, whether it be for licensed or classified staff?
I appreciate that, Ashley, and let me for a second ignore your question. Because I don't want the substitute issue to go by without us really highlighting what the stress and strain of that has been. So I can speak to APS. I suspect the issues were similar with my other colleagues from our conversations. But just to give you a very concrete sense, during January, during the Omicron surge, I had a standing 3:45 meeting every day. And the topic of that meeting was, can I have school tomorrow? Every day, we had to go through and figure out, can we have school tomorrow? Just think about that, right? That's the distinction between what's happening now versus the other times because of this crisis of substitutes, because of all the other issues. And so we have managed, this is May? What is it? Okay. We have managed to climb back to a place of a 56% fill rate. We, for most of the year, hovered like in the mid to high 40s if we were lucky. And what that means is that the majority of absences that are happening in school buildings were going unfilled. Right? Pre-pandemic, if we got to 80%, we thought it was a crisis, just to give you a sense of things. Right? When we hit like 75% back in 15, 16, I dramatically changed our system. We're the only district in the state that completely outsources our subs. And so when we got that level, I made a multi-million-dollar shift to make sure we never got there, right? You know, if I got there today, we'd be dancing in the streets, right? And so that issue is dramatic, and it is impacting all of us on a daily basis and causing tremendous stresses and strains to our teachers, to all of our building staff. And so in APS, one of the things that we did is, and I'm sure others did very similar things, everybody in all of our administrative offices were assigned 1 day a week to be in a classroom somewhere helping support that. I was assigned on Tuesdays. I was a para in an 8th grade math class, which is one, not helpful to kids, and two, just across the entire system, a dramatic misuse of resources. And so that's a problem. Going forward, we're going to try a pilot in the next couple of years of using remote teachers. We're going to pilot at least 6 of our schools using teachers who will remote in and teach certain classes to alleviate some of the stress and strain in our systems. So that's one of the things that we're trying to address this, because we don't see this going away very quickly. We see this as a lingering problem. If we are lucky, we will start getting into those 60 and 70% fill rates next year, I think, and we have to address that challenge. But that's some of the work that we've been doing and some of the crisis level that we've been doing, and I can't imagine what it's like in rural Colorado.
Thank you. We'd love to hear from our rural folks.
Well, I can tell you that there was a point in time where at 3:45, the answer to that question for us was we had to close school. We closed an elementary for an entire week because of the number of staff that had contracted Omicron. We contact traced, or traced. We knew the timeline that they were on, and we knew we wouldn't have staff for the week. So you can imagine not only the disruption to learning, but the disruption to parents and their ability to go to work. It hit the entire community really hard, and there was just nothing we could do about it. We have to, first and foremost, always have safety in school. So it's an unfortunate situation when you have to do that. And really, I have nothing to add. Rico said it wonderfully, that the covering classes is compounding. It's wearing people out. I had a conversation on a coffee in the community a week or so ago with a grandmother. And she said, I don't understand why my granddaughter isn't learning when her teacher is gone, but you put another teacher in the room. And I had to explain to her that, yes, we have another certified teacher who's coming in and covering. That's a different teacher every hour. It's not a teacher in the content area. And so we have to revert back to the type of lessons that come off of, we use Google Classroom as a way to communicate from our, the source teacher of that class to the students. And so, yeah, you have a licensed person in the room, but that doesn't mean that they're able to really do the full lesson and the instruction that the regular classroom teacher would do. So
It's hard for, I think, our community to understand why it's still so difficult to cover classrooms. So we welcome anybody in to come and see what it's like.
I would just like to add that I believe there's often a misperception that the subfill challenge that we're all facing right now is because of COVID and either teacher illness or needing to stay at home to take care of a sick child. And I don't believe that's the case. We spent a lot of time in our bargaining process this year in Adams 12 talking about temporary leave use and subfill rates and things of that nature. And the shocking data for me was looking at our January data when Omicron was raging. We'd have 2,200 cases in a week between staff and students, hundreds of cases per day. We were limping along. We were able to hold it together and keep all of our schools open, but barely. And when you look at the data for January versus February, March, and April, we spent less on substitute teachers and class coverage from other teachers in our buildings than we did February, March, and April, when COVID incidences dropped dramatically. So this isn't about us having all these needs because people are sick. They're exhausted. I think the real thing that is prompting so much of our substitute teacher needs February, March, and April, and into May, is people are worn out from all the things I highlighted before, and I don't foresee that going away next year.
Thank you. Kim, I'd love to.
Actually, I'm sorry, 1 second, just if I can piggyback, and it's not just exhaustion, but as business is seeing, there's also a fundamental shift in the workforce, what the workforce is expecting and demanding. And we, again, our employers, we are seeing the same thing. They're asking for more flexibility, they're asking for more control over their work phase, all of those things that are not necessarily natural to the K-12 workspace. If you have a room full of 5-year-olds, you need an adult in that room, right? Saying, I want to remote in today is not an option, right? And so when you think about the model and the reality of what we have to do, we need more creative space, more opportunity, more resource to create some of those options and to create that workspace that can actually then serve ultimately all of our business sector.
Thank you. So I want to have time for about 2 more questions. The first one, Kim, if you can address this first. According to a recent article in Forbes magazine, the top 3 reasons that teachers are leaving the profession are because of mental and emotional burnout, which we talked about, working conditions, and the lack of respect from the general public. So what is your district doing? We'll start with you, and then to support the load that we've been talking about, the mental burnout, the stress.
Well, I think as Rico started to kind of allude to, our teachers are exhausted. I believe that many of them, you know, like many of us, came into this school year thinking, okay, we got through last year. We're going to be okay. And then we walked into school and went, what the heck? Wait, this is worse than last year. What? This is not what we signed on for. And so as folks began to work through this year, the challenges were, in some cases, even greater than last year's. And yes, we saw the exhaustion. We're talking with folks about planning time, making sure they have enough time to breathe, because as Rico alluded to, when somebody's out and we don't have someone to cover, oftentimes our teachers have to step in for each other and give up that time. And so we're recognizing that that compounded makes the exhaustion that much greater. And so certainly providing them resources that they need to feel like they can do their jobs and do it well, the time that they need, trying to really look into creative ways to offer more planning time, certainly. We actually even took a couple of days within our calendar and made them non-student contact days. That was not the plan at the beginning of the year, because we recognized our teachers needed that time, not only to catch their breath, but to be able to do their jobs well. So we're having to be creative as well.
Yeah, that responsiveness is important. Thank you.
So one of the things that I have observed over time is that when it comes to developing a lot of school programming in a state that is continually unwilling to invest what it needs to get done what it wants to get done, we often rely on grants, gifts, and donations to launch new programs and do things that we feel like are going to be innovative and responsive. And I think there's kind of a similar model and set of expectations that happen for us at the district level about these issues. We do what we can with fairly meager resources, with foundations, with business partners, to do employee appreciation things, to try to find ways to give people mental health outlets. There can be resources that you bring in, and we're going to do this next year to have social workers and psychologists that staff can access more readily than they can through their medical provider. You do employee appreciation things. We're doing that. I'm off to to recognize our Teacher of the Year here later this morning. You stand up for your staff. Recently, I gave a lecture, according to one of our parents, that went on for about an hour and a half at a board meeting after public comment over the last few months that was just railing on everything about our system and our educators. And so you can stand up for them. You can bring coffee and donuts. You can do all these things to try to show appreciation and dial back some stress and bring some fun into the workplace. But in the end, until we have more resources in that allow us to spread workload amongst more people, I fear that we're going to continue to have these same challenges. We've got to lean in and invest much more than we have to the gifts, grants, and donations approach in the past.
And what I would say, again, to the business sector is you have a unique opportunity and a unique space to understand the macro vision, the macro things of the different puts and pulls of our budgets and the things we're trying to balance with employees and all those kinds of outcomes. You are in a unique position to come alongside us and stand and help us to explain these things to the broader community and support those things with op-eds and other things. In order to get through these challenges, we are going to have to do things and are doing some things that our communities do not like, that they do not enjoy. You have to come in and be another voice and step up and explain why this has to happen and why the shift has to happen and how we are trying to serve our communities in different ways, but you've got to come alongside us, right? Being on the sideline and just showing up for the fun things, it's nice, we appreciate those days, but there are tough days, and you have to show up and help be part of that as well.
I think the piece that I would add is this pressure, this force field that really surrounds school districts and our community is the impact on social media and the toll that it's taking and how we treat each other, how we speak to each other, and that the new unfortunate social norm that comes with such a responsive social media climate is deteriorating what is happening in education because teachers have had enough. They really are not respected and spoken to or even given the benefit of the doubt of why they approached something in their classroom or why they had a conversation, a well-intentioned conversation with a student before the parent is flying off the handle over social media. It's all over Facebook, and we are in a constant state of cleanup and protecting our staff. That's a force field that's bigger than us. It's going to take all of us to figure out some stopgaps and to get back to some social norms that are far more respectable and more positive than they are now.
Thank you. So thank you to all of our panelists. And I want you to take a moment and think about the scenario and the picture that these four panelists have painted for you today. Just take a moment and think about that. Now, I'd like you to take a moment and think about a different scenario. A Colorado school system that has enough highly qualified educators to give them personalized attention to each and every student to help them thrive, and enough support in schools to offer mental health services or individualized and specialized services to anyone who can benefit. A system where students regularly have teachers who are there to support them, teachers who reflect their race, their culture, or their religion. We are a long way from this scenario, and it needs to change. And part of the discussion today is to help that change. Statistics show that we are down 6,000 teachers, which equates to 180,000 students who do not have a teacher in the classroom or a highly qualified teacher who can give them personalized attention. 180,000 students, and you heard about that today. So Colorado, we are here to solve this problem because this is our future workforce. So thank you so much for our panelists today. I appreciate you all being here and offering all of your perspectives. So before we wrap up today, I'd like to invite Brooke Fleming, the chair of the PEBC Board of Directors, up on the stage.
Good morning, and thank you to all the panelists for everyone being here today. I have the honor of serving as a PEBC board chair. I've been involved for about 6 years, and every time I have a chance to hear about the good work of PEBC, I learn something new, so truly a pleasure to be here. I am so proud of the many ways PEBC has been and continues to be part of the solution. For decades, PEBC has been bringing excellent new teachers into the profession, training teachers to be their best through professional learning and other programming, and standing up for educators at the policy level. We are a nonprofit, and we do rely on donations to support our work. Is one of PEBC's 2 major fundraisers of the year. And we'd like to invite you to consider a donation to PEBC in support of this very critical work at a critical time in our state. Yesterday was Teacher Appreciation Day, and I'd like you to consider making a donation in honor of one of your favorite teachers. For me, it's Mrs. Long, my 2nd grade teacher. She complimented me on my handwriting. She encouraged a love of math. She made me touch a cow eyeball before dissecting it when I didn't want to. And she brought me flowers when I had the most insignificant role in a local theater production. Wow, that was weird, sorry. I think we all could probably reflect on a teacher that had a similar impact. Exciting news is for the first $1,000 of donations, we do have a matching contributor to match those donations received today. Conveniently, there is an easy way to make a donation. First, text to PEBC at 801-801. Additionally, that same information can be found at the bottom of your card here. Next, I'd like to invite Sue to say a few closing words as we wrap up this wonderful event. Thank you.
Thank you to our fearless leader, Brooke Fleming. And look, that math teacher did well. She's a banker. Look what happens, teachers. Okay, I'm going to be fast. I just want to thank everybody for the incredible energy and wisdom and talent that you shared to put together this event today. And we have some teachers in the room who have had thoughtful conversations with me about whether to return next year, and I implore you to hang on because we are rallying the troops. I would say we have some actionable takeaways for the business community. Thank you very much. If you look, the card that Brooke showed you, on this side, you have the ability to unlock the match and make a donation at the bottom of the page. If you turn it around, there's a QR code. We have several choices for you. We believe in choice time here at PEBC. So for the business community who want to go to that QR code and get involved and make a concrete commitment, we have options for you. You may create and support scholarships for teacher apprenticeships, residencies. You heard Deputy Secretary Martin talk about the importance of training teachers in a residency approach. You invest highly in people and they stay in the profession. Tiffany Atkins, I forgot to mention earlier, graduate of the program, still in the profession. Start a scholarship to send teachers to high quality professional learning opportunities like PEBC's Thinking Strategies or any 2 or 3 day workshop. Feed them intellectually. Fund teachers in an innovative business model, as Deputy Secretary Martin mentioned, that Superintendent Munn and PEBC are undertaking a Pay for Success, a social impact bond on outcomes. No funding on inputs, funding on outcomes. Create or contribute to a living wage fund to make childcare more affordable and available for teachers. I can't tell you what a barrier that is for many teachers to enter the profession. We're gonna need 4,000 new early childhood teachers in this state, people, by the time Prop EE monies land. And we just shared what the landscape currently looks like. We need your help. Co-author op-eds, as Superintendent Munn mentioned, to raise the public awareness of the importance of bolstering teacher workforce. I'm going to thank the PEBC board who has never shied away from writing an op-ed and being public about our passion for teachers and teaching. Partner with PEBC to give testimonials at the Capitol to lend business credibility to educator workforce issues. I always say to Tom Brinegar, I can say it till I'm blue in the face, and then you stand up and say it, and the bill passes 6-0. It's important. Partner with Teach Colorado on a PSA campaign to help shift perceptions of the teaching profession. We know that we have issues around the status of this profession, and if you think about how that impacts a first-generation child in this country, they're not coming, right, until we do our work shifting the perceptions of this profession. Lastly, connect with your corporate social responsibility team. Let us know if you need help doing that, and we can help you find consistent classroom volunteer opportunities, because Rico always reminds me, if we have a different person in, every Thursday or Friday, that doesn't help the children form a bond, especially a lot of our children going through trauma and who have faced down trauma and are continuing to face trauma. They need consistent adults in the classroom. So be one. Come every Friday, and we're happy to pair you up with a loving district or school as a home. I want to thank everybody, and I am just filled with gratitude for your time today. Ashley, would you like to close us out?
Absolutely. I never shy away from the microphone. So thank you once again to our panelists, to all of our business leaders, our staff, and our districts who have come here today. And we so appreciate you taking the time to understand what is happening in the educational landscape in Colorado and throughout the nation. Thank you all for being here today, and I hope you have a great rest of your morning.
Being here today. I wish I could join you in person, but I want to start by expressing my gratitude to all of the teachers in the room today. Yesterday was Teacher Appreciation Day, but I want you to know that our appreciation for you extends to all 365 days. That's especially true in the context of the last few years when teachers persevered and helped return the students to the classroom. The impact of a teacher on individual students cannot be understated. That's why it's so important to make sure we're supporting Colorado's teachers and making education an attractive career choice to recruit and retain the best and brightest into the profession. The past 39 years, the Public Education and Business Coalition has been a key resource for educators across Colorado and the country. PEBC provides professional development to train teachers and advocates in the profession. And I want to thank PEBC for hosting this convening, for your efforts to address workforce issues and improve education. We want more educators and more opportunities to create a ripple effect throughout Colorado's workforce and economy. I want to thank PEBC's CEO and President, Sue Sava, her partnership with the Keystone Policy Center, the early childhood convening, and I look forward to seeing the results of this exciting effort. A strong education system means a strong economy, and with partners like PEBC, we're going to get it done. Thank you for being here today and participating in this important conversation.